So I don't know if you call Labor Day a happy day. Is that a happy day? Are you working on Labor Day? No. Okay, so happy Labor Day to everybody that's not working, because I don't think you're supposed to work on Labor Day, right? No. Okay. So we have been exploring a profound statement from Genevieve Behrend's wonderful book, Your Invisible Power. And I want to continue that just a little bit. She wrote this: as you grow in understanding as to who you are and where you came from and what the purpose of your being is and how you are to fulfill the purpose for which you are intended, you will become a more and more perfect center through which the creative spirit of life can enjoy itself. And here's another way of paraphrasing that we've been using. The more we know who and whose we are, and the more we live life the way we are meant to live life, the more God has fun. Because why? Because we are here to express the divine within us. And when we are in that place of faith, in that place of peace, then that divine self within us, you can feel it. When you're in touch with it especially, you can feel that it is having its way, and that's where the peace lies. That's where the joy lies, right there within each and every one of us. 2 weeks ago, I told a parable about a nobody named Ordinary. I like that parable. But anyway, who had decided to give God some fun by having a big dream and becoming a somebody as he achieved it. Part of that parable that was once ordinary embarked on pushing the big dream and got to the edge of the comfort zone. Do you know what that is? The edge of your comfort zone. Anybody know what that means? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right there. And then, wow, what's on the other side? Everything. That's the secret. Everything, not our fears, everything else. We talk about infinite possibilities. That's where they lie. Out of our own conducting of what something should be. Anyway, back to this. So Ordinary embarked on pursuing the big dream and got to the edge of that comfort zone of the land of the familiar. He saw a wall of fear and struggled with his deep fear. You know where that wall of fear is, right? I do, maybe you don't, but it's there. But it's there only in our minds. It's not real, as I'll get into. Today we're going to dig into how we handle fear when we are pursuing our big dream, or whenever fear arises. You know, that whole feeling. I'm going to talk about that today. Because the name of this talk, which I kind of tweaked a little, is Are We Freaking Out or Finding Faith? Now, I don't like it, but I like the phrase freaking out. Because to me, it gives more meaning to the word just fear. And it's freaking out is different. We're going to get into all the ways that we can freak out. Or not. Or not. We don't want to freak out. It's not fun to freak out. So it may come up because a lot of stuff might come up because uncertainty seems to be the challenge in our lives. And what is our life except a lot of uncertainty? Do we really know when we begin a day, any moment, any new challenge, any new career move, any new relationship move, any of that? Do we really know what's going to happen? We don't. But our minds seem to have this way of conceiving a whole entire scenario of what's going to happen. And most of the time, it's wrong. Most of the time, thank goodness, you know, unless it's really big dreams and stuff that you really want, and that aligns with your divinity, so that's good. it may come up, this fear and shifting of different events and activities in our lives. It may come up because we might feel challenged by what's going on in the news, by the global, by what's going on the planet. Fear comes up from that. Put the news on if you want fear. And it's a good opportunity to pray. Let's hold in prayer. Also, of course, another mass shooting in Texas. So again, we hold it in prayer, and hopefully, as I said last week, thank you for that post on Facebook, Norman, spiritual activism. Take the action where you find called to do it, and do it in integrity. That's all we really, to really align with divinity. Doesn't mean we just sit and pray. Prayer is very powerful. But we sit and pray, and as long as we are in line with our divinity, we take action from that place. So we have that going on. We have so much going on our planet. We have that hurricane coming up, which we're praying for all of those places that might be hit by this hurricane. I mean, it's just constant. And there's so much all over the world. But it ignites within us a collective fear. So again, realigning with the divine within us. It may come up when a relationship changes. That comes up big time. All kinds of stuff comes up with that. It can come up when a job shift takes place. And there's so many different ways in which this fear that I'm talking about today, this fear comes up. But I want to make something very, very clear, that as we head into today's exploration, there's only one reason that this is occurring. Only one reason. And what is that, you might ask? It is occurring because your individual spirit, as well as the collective spirit of humanity, are demanding something from us. Change is inevitable. Change is always taking place. We like to stay in that land of the ordinary and familiar, where everything is kind of, we think we know how it's going to unfold. But do we really? No, we don't. No, we don't. So, Spirit is giving us opportunities all the time to step out of that comfort zone. And when we do it in integrity, and we do it with alignment with that infinite source of our being, the possibilities are endless. The possibilities for us to feel like we are really living life. Really living life. And so, here's what they're demanding of us. That we fly instead of flutter. We really fly. That we soar rather than bore. Now the bore, if you look it up in the dictionary, which I have to do, is not being bored, but it is a continuous repetition. So you're going to soar rather than bore. Or that we thrive instead of merely surviving. We just sometimes feel like we're surviving. We can thrive even if it doesn't look like we have plenty. There's so much in life to appreciate, the beauty of what we have of nature, to really appreciate that. And there's something else. If we didn't have everything already within us to soar, to fly, and to thrive, it wouldn't even come up. There would be no contrast. We would be living our lives and just living it through the fear. I remember a time before I knew of this teaching where, situations would come up and I was freaking out, and that's all I had was the freaking out and getting through it. But when you learn these spiritual tools, that's why that foundation class is key. I don't even know how many times I've taken and taught that class. It's got to be like 20 or 30 times. But it's a way of creating and getting in alignment with spiritual principles of knowing the God of your understanding, whatever you want to call it, I don't care what you call it, but that there is a higher power that is there for our good, and not only is it there, it's here. And that's the important lesson for us to learn. It's here. We are not our bodies. So the question this morning is then, when fear hits, when that fear hits, are you freaking out? Or are you finding faith? And the faith is within us. To turn to that peace, to know that God is more powerful than any situation. And I don't care what the situation is. This divinity is, first of all, it doesn't change. Second of all, it is omnipresent. And third of all, it is there to support the life that it created, and that's each and every one of us. At every moment, we have a choice, even in that freaking out. It doesn't feel like we have a choice, because, well, when I freak out, it just happens. It's like, freak out immediate. It's like, there's no, I don't have a choice here. How do I do that? It's no, right into the freak out. But it doesn't last that long because I have tools. I have tools of knowing that God is in charge. There is a power, I feel it in me, I know it in me, and that power is truly in charge of my life and in charge of whomever wishes to access that divinity within them. The truth is that even that seemingly automatic response is a choice. That's why it's important for us to immediately, well, for me, I'll just speak for me because I don't know how everyone else freaks out. You ever think, I used to think this until the great Martha Creek, at one of her workshops about 6 years ago, said, honey, you're hardwired for anxiety. And she said that, I said, really? Other people have anxiety too? Because we tend to think that we're the only ones that have anxiety. Like, oh God, if everybody knew that how anxious I was inside of myself. Meanwhile, we all have that within us. So that's comforting to know you're not alone when you're freaking out, okay? But the great thing is to surround yourself with uplifting, positive people, because that truly will help you ease out of that freak out state. And to remember within yourself that the changeless presence is right there where you are. And a lot of this, I think, has to do with how we really look at fear. And I want to spend a couple of minutes looking at 3 different types of fear. And a spoiler alert is that 2 of them are actually good. Okay? So you can figure out which one it is. The first kind of fear is innate within us, and this is what Martha Creek was talking about. She'll be here next year, by the way, and when she said you have to come, she's amazing. Anyway, it's genetic. It's within everyone. It's so we stay alert and aware in every moment. We stay aware of our environment. It's there to enable us to kick into gear when we see something that is like a saber-toothed tiger or whatever strikes your fear. I know that I'm very aware, and Norman knows what I'm talking about from our martial arts, years of martial arts studying. I get extremely aware of my surroundings. And that's kind of drummed into you when you're studying martial arts, but it's also part of who we are, to be aware when there's danger. So this is a good part. This is the good fear. Primal fear it's called. And primal fear keeps you alert and ready to spring into action. Of course you want that kind of fear, right? Yes?
Yes.
I mean, it's the fear that says, oh my God, there's a big truck coming, and you don't walk in front of it. That's the kind of fear we're talking about. That's and this is startling, but it's a form of fear. Often, this has the same feeling as primal fear, but it's not because of a current threat. This is the second kind of fear. It's because you have projected, and I think a lot of my fear comes from this, projected into a thought into the future. And rather than causing you to be alert and aware, it actually does the opposite. And you can't even think straight. Anybody know that kind of, you can't even think straight. Hello? You just can't even have a clarifying thought at that. That's not a good one. It's like the deer in the headlight syndrome, because that's what it really feels like. And this is actually freak out fear. That's the freak out fear. Are we going to call it, and we're going to call it fear as a projected thought, because we're projecting what might happen, what's going to happen, oh my God, this is going to happen, and that, yeah, but all the opposite can happen also. An opportunity for us to really step out of the familiar, an opportunity for us to step out of the ordinary. Every once in a while, it's a good thing. And then we have fear that I want us to do a little exercise with. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to kind of get the, if you can try to kind of get the feeling of, this is still the projected thought fear. So close your eyes and just pretend like you're sleeping, like you just woke up anyway. So you're still having that dream, except this dream. You are being chased by a ferocious grizzly bear. And even though you are running at top speed, he is gaining on you. Quickly, suddenly, you fall and really hurt your leg. And you struggle to get up, but you can't. And the bear is now practically on top of you. And to make matters worse, a den of lions hear this ruckus, and they come charging over from the other direction. And above you is a flock of very hungry vultures. All of this is taking place at the same time in your dream, and you can feel your heart pounding. And you don't know, what am I going to do to save myself? How am I going to save? This is a terrifying situation. What are you going to do? Well, the answer is very simple. You wake up. Remember, it's a dream. Fear is a dream. It feels so real, doesn't it, at the time? It feels so real. It has such power. But it's not real because it's changeable. Anything that's changeable is not a spiritual truth. It's not a truth. It's a condition in that moment that feels real. It feels real. And then you have fear as our emotional guidance system. Fear shows us a very important message here. And I'm sure you'd like to hear this message, and it puts it back on us, as usually most things are when we take responsibility for our lives. The message is, my thinking is off. I'm not aligned with spiritual truth. When we're out of alignment, we can feel the contrast. We can feel that contrast. I'm not aligned with my heart's desires, because our heart's desires have been planted there by the divine. That's what that pull is. That's what that call that you hear people say is. And this kind of fear is terrific because it's giving us information. What do I need? And always I go to this. What do I need to learn from this situation? What do I need to learn from this last freak out? Tremendous amounts of information become available to us when we really honestly look at what do I need. This is our emotional guidance system. This is powerful stuff. And it's a signal that we are totally off. Something is completely out of alignment, and we need to go within. We need to contemplate. We need to constantly ask, what am I to learn here? You will always be provided an answer to that, by the way. It's never failed me. It's always I have. And here's a part that's also can be challenging until you get used to it, is to look the fear right in the face, right in the middle of it, to face that fear and to truly know that God is on our side, that this power, this energy, because we call God a divine energy, this divine energy is right there supporting us in every moment. I truly believe that, and I live my life with that after I finish freaking out, of course. Because I would like it to end the freak out thing, and that's a learned that's like taking that primal fear and then moving it into something that's being triggered, that's been learned from childhood usually on. And so when you trigger one of those deep wounds, you're going to go into freak out fear. So we're constantly healing that. So why are we always healing it? So we can be at peace. So that we can truly live a life that is productive for us, that is filled with joy, filled with happiness, filled with whatever you fill in the blank, whatever you want your life to be, filled with success. How about that? Success in living a happy life. So I'm skipping over this whole thing here because it was too long. I've been told not to read too many readings because they are confusing. So I'm taking that whole part out in order that I may be clear to you and not confuse you. But I'm talking about fear here. And we all kind of know what it is. But I'm also talking about faith. That faith of knowing that the infinite good of God is always there for us. So what is your bear right now? You might not have one in this moment. Because we do have moments where we're not living in, I hope, in total fear. And so if you are, what is your bear moment right now? And that's B-E-A-R. Well, I'll let you know. And as we face that bear and use it to show us where our thinking is off, because it will show us where our thinking is off, we just might find that it is strayed away from one of the fundamental premise on which our spiritual paths are based upon. It's the contrast, as I said before. God is love. There is no fear in God. There's no fear in this energy. None. No fear. It does not recognize, changeless. It does not recognize fear whatsoever. Because remember, this is our biggest premise that we base everything on in science of mind. There is one power, one presence, one source of all that is, was, and ever shall be, nearer than your hands and feet, closer than your breath. This is the power of the divine, and there is nothing, when you are aligned with it, nothing to fear, nothing. It's always there. God has not changed, can never change. God hasn't changed its mind about you. Maybe we've forgotten about that divinity within us. That's what's changed. And when we remember again, we can take that breath and keep returning to center. Keep returning to center. The problem is that we change our minds so often about God, or whatever you want to call this power. Because we don't have one word, we just use the word God. We use source, spirit, love, intelligence, whatever you want. But whatever is going on in our lives, we can still decide to turn to this one source, this one power. I don't care what's going on in our lives. And take that deep breath and breathe that in. Breathe in that source, that abundance that is God, that fullness, that richness that is always present. Now, some of us have believed that if there's a loving, infinite presence, then everything should just go very smoothly. You know, life should just glide along. If anyone's found that, I would like to meet them personally, and they can tell me how they did that, because that's not been my experience. And I'm still learning, and I hope to God to always be learning, so I can expand my consciousness and connect more with that indwelling presence. So why do challenges occur then? They occur so for that contrast again, so that we can fly rather than flutter. They take place. You know, sometimes we need that little fire under our butt to get us to move. So if that's what it takes, so that we can soar rather than bore, so that we can thrive instead of just simply always feeling like we're surviving. All of which makes us a more perfect center through which the divine can flow through, can express through. And so, this, my friend, is how we turn a freak out into a faith fest, by aligning. So, but you gotta, this is where you establish through, that's why we do meditation, why we have all kinds of spiritual practices, so that we can establish this relationship with that indwelling presence. Because it's there. It's there. And any of us that have done that kind of work can attest to that. And even that, when I first found Science of Mind, I don't know, 1992 or something, it was such a gift that I gave to myself, because here's an alternative. Here is another way to live life instead of always being in that freak out mode. I could then turn to that faith fest, and that sure felt good, and also learn a lot along the way. And to remember that we can always lose so much, or it feels like loss in life, but we never lose the source of all good. You can't lose God. You can't lose divinity, oneness. You can't lose it. The infinite grace resides within each and every one of us. Maybe you lost your job, but you know what? You haven't lost the intelligence, the persistence, and the other abilities that got you the job in the first place. Or you've lost a loved one. But you can never lose the light that you experience with that person, the qualities in you that help create that relationship. You can't lose that. And when we are in fear, we have the opportunity to discover that we are more than we think we are. We're always more than we think we are, which is really a wonderful gift to let us all know that we are more. We are. So the question is, where have you allowed a disappointment or a crisis to become your identity, or to block your awareness of other possibilities? Remember, we talk about infinite possibilities. I'm a true believer in that. There's a lot of change going on right now at Joyful Gathering, and you know what? I'm excited because I've seen God's work before. I've seen when I've had to step out, like my biggest last one was when I left my marriage and just walked out. Just literally closed the door. And that's when I learned, wait a minute, this was provided, this was provided, it was amazing. And then you look back and you go, wow, I couldn't have planned any of that. Well, that's what's taking place now. And so now my philosophy is, I wonder what the divine has in store. I know it's going to be good. I just know it's going to be good. And I really believe that. And that's the kind of energy that we want to hold. That's a faith fest. That's, instead of being in the freak out mode, that's a faith fest. I'm not saying that it's all easy, but you know, if you break a lamp in your house, You still have electricity, right? I love anything to do with the law of electricity is one of my favorite things. Because the light is not in any one job or any one person or any of that. It is in your connection to a greater love intelligence. You are the light. The lamp is a reflection, an instrument. And people are reflections of that. But your light, you can't lose it. It might feel like you broke something, you lost a relationship or a job or whatever it is. But really, the light is within us, and it always will be. It always will be. So, I'm going to finish with this, and I love this idea. This is really great. In fearful times, you are walking into the grand unknown. It's scary because anything can happen. And it's wonderful because finally anything can happen. What a shift. Huh? We keep ourselves stuck. I stayed in a marriage for 42 years, and nothing could happen. None of that, all those dreams that I held, they couldn't happen. But the minute I took that move, which takes a lot of courage to do any of these things, everything could happen. Everything was possible. So that's what I'm asking all of us to stay open to. And if you're really ready to shift from that freaking out state into that finding faith state, then you are in your right place right now, and continue doing that work. Okay, thank you.